already mentioned my name, but okay, I'm Simone Lipschitz. I'm here to talk about, I think it's a little bit, yeah? I'm here to talk about porting 2D vector-based content to Verge3D. It will take about 20 minutes, maybe a little longer, and I hope there will be some time for questions. A few words about me. My professional background is in graphic design, illustration, and portrait painting. In 1998, I entered web design at a time that it was not so easy to make things visually appealing. So a few years later, I started using Flash, and Flash was a welcome addition to the world of web design. You had a timeline, so you could make animations, interactive animations with well-synchronized sound. You could even make character animations. You could load content dynamically. You had action scripts, you could make small games, and so on and so on. It was really very useful, and it was great fun for us and great value for customers. But unfortunately, Flash disappeared from the web horizon, and with it a lot of appealing content and very interesting content. And in my experience, HTML5, CSS3, jQuery, they couldn't replace everything that Flash offered us. But new developments were on their way. In 2012, I had my eye on WebGL. And I started entering the world of 3D modeling and 3D content creation. I used a variety of programs, ZBrush, Lightwave, which was quite popular at that time, Blender, of course. And by the way, I didn't try 3ds Max. Where am I? Yeah. I became an avid Blender user in 2017, and I met Yuri at a Blender conference that year, and there he introduced Verge3D, and I thought, this is it. This is so useful, and it's going to be so versatile. The moment it was available, I dove in, and now I'm hooked. Now, yeah, I had a few questions, but they were already asked. Whom of you are Blender users? But still, you know, you can lift your finger whom if you are Blender users. So and who of you are 3ds Max users? Yeah, maybe we'll switch one day. And whom of you are familiar or have used Flash? Okay, that's nice. So then my story will make some sense. At the beginning of this year, I thought, why not bring my old Flash animations back to the web again using Blender and Verge3D? And after all, one can import SVGs into Blender, and I think even Illustrator files to 3ds Max. And there's another fantastic option to create new content, and that's using Blender 2.8 with its newly well-developed grease pencil tool for making 2D animation. You can both of the content you can port to Verge3D. God, I lost my you can prepare them and then port them to Verge3D. The workflow is a little bit different, but I will focus here on the workflow of importing the SVG files into Blender, which is now I think the most stable thing to do. I will use Blender. I've used Blender 2.79, which is stable, and I will show the first method. Here I have an example of the app I'm building. I'm still in the middle of building it, so it's far from finished. Let's change the stage. Let's open the theater. These are all 2D animations. I first focus on the characters. I still use them in 3D space, which is possible. You don't need to. And you see all the animations. They work. They're rudimentary animations, but Verge3D can handle it without any problems. Now, I'm going to focus, use the simplified version of the King of Spades to show you the process I used. The few steps I used are the most straightforward things. You can use different methods, but this is will be easy for you, I hope, to understand. Before we import the SVG, make sure that the image is the same size as the canvas, and that the colors are flat. They will come over in Blender, the colors, that way. And the lines, you have to make sure that they're converted to paths. Now here we are in Blender. I immediately switch to cycles. Here you see the two lamps. I use 2 point lamps, and you don't need shadows because it's 2D. And I set the camera on 55 millimeters. It was a little bit too wide angle in basis, and I turn off the shadows, the lamps. You don't need them, and it will load much more quickly. And then in Verge3D, I also make sure that the shadows are disabled. You don't need them. Now I make sure that I'm in, I go into orthographic view. I do everything in orthographic view. I'm sure that I'm in top view now, because the SVGs will be imported and you will see it in top view. Import the SVG. And here's the card, but where is the king? Well, the parts are there, but everything is stacked on top of each other, so you can't see them. And we are in 3D space, so we have to layer them in 3D space. Quite near to each other, but I will move the card. I will put the card back a little bit, and now you see the king. I want to have everything in, make sure that everything is in front view, so I rotate the card in 90 degrees on the x-axis. And let's place it in the right spot. And I want to enlarge the card. It's easier, it's less fiddly when it's larger, and you have better results if you have large, not too large, but a larger space than I enlarged it 3 times. And then, now it's in the middle, we want to see it in the camera view. And here you can set up the Verge3D camera. I already prepared it a bit, and let's move it a little bit more up and down. You see how you can get everything in the middle or wherever you want to place your scene. And let's see how it looks now in Verge3D. You see everything looks okay, it's there, but look at the artifacts, and that's because it's not layered. And everything has a lot of specularity. Well, we will change that. We want to change that. Now, here I'm going to layer some pieces. And I found that 0.2 millimeters is just good enough. You want to have it really close. The effect is 2D. So you want to have it close, but you don't want to have any artifacts in Verge3D. So 0.2 millimeters is, I've found out, is a good distance between all the objects. Here I hid the head to reveal lift the crown. Do some things, layer some things. And there you see, when I layer, you see the lines appear. They're all there. So it's a bit of work. I didn't do everything now. I want to see it in a sneak peek like this. Oh no, first I want to change the colors, because I want to use nodes later. And you immediately get a diffuse shader. I immediately name the new color, the new material it is, and I use an underscore to have everything. I can find it easily later, and everything is grouped together well. It's important to stay very organized and name things very precisely, especially if you have lots of objects and you have to use puzzles and ask for the objects. It's important to find them. I do the crown, call it gold. And you see the first part, everything, how crisp and clear everything looks and how well Verge3D handles it all. And the rest is not done yet, so here I have done it all. Everything is layered. And here you see all the materials nicely grouped together, so it's easily found. Green. And here I turn off backface culling for the card, so it's fun. I have it in 3D space, so then you can see the back of the card. Even if you just want to keep it like this, you could do it. Later I did more things, but so if you have a simple SVG, you want to play around or use it as a decoration, this is what you can do. But we want to do more with this. First of all, there was a line around the head, which is used a lot in animation, certain kind of style. And for that, and also for animation, we need to convert it to a mesh object, because now everything is still curves. Very nice, but you can't animate them and do special things with them. So everything has to be converted to a mesh. And I will do that now with the head. Select the head. I will not show, shortcuts are there, but here I convert to a mesh, and I want to keep the original. You never know whether you need it in the future. And I immediately rename the newly created mesh. Also very important to do. And now we go to edit mode, and here you see the geometry which generated, and it's not optimal for what I want to do. So I want to select only the inner edges, keep the outer edges all intact. I do that by selecting by face angles, selecting one edge, face angles. Now I have all the inner edges selected, and I do a limited dissolve. And now I have one big, large face, one big, large n-gon. I use it's important to choose the angle. 3% was fine for this model, depends. And I inset the face with a 0.4 millimeters, and that's to create a line. I go to face select mode, select the inner face, and then inverse select it to have only the outer face selected, because I want to give this another color. Well, I make it black. Don't forget to assign it, but you can of course make it any color. Now, but I have more things we want to do, because we have to triangulate the big inner face. Now, this is 2D, so it will be 2D animation. This geometry is fine for 2D animation, not for 3D. That will give work. But and I want to, I selected all. I use, always make UV map. Even if I use only, we'll stop this. If you only use procedural texturing, create a UV map. Also, because if you want to animate it and you want to have all the texture move with the animation, then you need to make a UV map. And it's no problem with loading. It's always make sure you will always use it once. Can do all kinds of things with it. Now, where was I? Yes. Yes, another important step to do for consistency, you have to assign, you see everything is still rotated 90 degrees and it's the size is enlarged. You have to apply rotation and scale, so everything will be zeroed out again. I don't know how to say it, but the rotation is 0 again and the scale is on 1. Very important, not only for animation but also for physics later. And you have to do that with all the mesh objects. And place the origin in the center of the object. That's also important. Now we will switch to nodes. And let's concentrate on the materials. Now I'm not going into node editing at all. This is not the scope of this talk. But I will show you, this is a simple node setup with a color ramp. And you can play to your heart's delight with the nodes, because Verge3D can handle almost any node and all kind of combinations. You see, with very simple things, you can already get all kinds of effects. So, I know. Of course, also this talk is not about learning, making rigging or other, oh yes, weight painting and so on. But I want to give you some tips to keep in mind if you are rigging for animation, for Verge3D, and for weight painting. And is you can't have too many overlapping weights on one bone. I'm going into weight painting. And what I make sure that one bone doesn't have more than weights with not more than 2 bones, and I make sure that I clean all the weights. Otherwise, the Blender has all kind of overlapping weights, and it can handle it, but it can't be handled in WebGL. If I clean it up, it will work fine. And there's another few tips I could give. You see, these are reasonably complex armatures, or rigs, they're called. And I want to focus on the Joker, which has the most complex rig, and it's reasonably animator friendly, but who have a completely friendly rig, animator friendly rig. It has so many bones and bones and bones and all kind of constructions that will not. It's too computational heavy to work in the browser. So this will work. It's reasonably animator friendly. You can do all kind of things with it, and this will work fine. It has some. It doesn't have any. Now I lost a word. No drivers. But it has some constraints, not too many constraints, no conflicting constraints. Here, the corner. Little head. It moves together with the wood. Also has some constraints. And here you see some constraints. Very simple copy or rotation, copy, scale, but damp track is supported very well. I use that as well. But you have some general idea what can be done if you're rigging or you're working with an animator. You know that rather complex things can be handled. Now everything is ready, and I will prepare it. Some things in Verge3D render settings. I can use compression, but it's not for this. It's not really that. It doesn't make a big difference. It loads quite quickly. Here I export to GLTF, and let's see. What happens? Now, here again is the app. Let's open the theater. And I can change the stage. The colors of the cards at the moment can't be changed because they have multiple materials in one object. Maybe in the future it will be possible, but at the moment not. But now, they still love their applause. So you can play around and do all kind of things. I added some physics. Let's drop the cards. And they will eventually speak. They will recite poetry. It will be more of an educational application. And all kind of features can be added. So this is just an example what can be done with 2D vector content in Verge3D, but there are endless possibilities just for decoration in the backdrop, and it loads fast. You don't have to convert a lot of things only for animation or for more complex materials. Just imagine it, start playing around with it. So, are there any questions? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. These are all different layers, yes. All the layers are stacked behind each other. And, of course, it's an animation, so it's not as natural, so I can play around with that. Yes. The bones are moving are connected to different parts, different layers, different parts. And I use helper bones. What you saw were helper bones, and they're connected with. They use constraints to copy the location or have another constraint. So all the helper bones, I'm not so good at explaining, all the helper bones are separately pointing to other bones, the regular bones. I move them separately, and the big bone in the top, which moves all the lips and the teeth, are connected with other helper bones, and so it's a little bit complex to explain it. Maybe if you want to know more later, I can show you maybe how it's done. But here I just wanted to show that what will work, and that a lot can be handled by Verge3D. And that's... Well, my cards, you can change the colors. My materials, because of the line, consist of two materials. On the objects are two materials. And at the moment we can't change an object which has two materials or more materials in it. But I could separate the inner part and then change the material. But then it wouldn't work very well with my animation. Yeah, you can change the value, but I can't. But then it doesn't know which part to take. Because it has several. Yes. Maybe in the future it will be possible, but at the moment that's not possible. So if you have completely different things. So then you make sure that you separate the object in different parts, and then you can change all the materials.
Something we need to think about.
Yes. Yeah, maybe if it's possible. Are there any other questions?
Thank you very much.